You're listening to the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman, episode 201. So on today's podcast, I'm joined by the fabulous Sue Williams, who is, you're just an all-round superstar. She's a dog trainer extraordinaire. You've got the Pawesome online dog club, which is amazing. You do one-to-one trainings. You've done displays. I mean, actually, you tell us, Sue, what's your job description?
Oh, crikey. I don't even view it as a job. So that's the first thing. I think I'm probably one of the luckiest people that has, I've got a job that is basically my passion and my life. Absolutely love it. So I can't really put the word job there because it's not like a job, to be honest with you, Ria. I mean, I play with dogs. I help people with their dogs. I obviously I do behavioural work. If I put my official hat on here now, I'm a canine behaviourist, professional canine behaviourist. I'm also a dog trainer. I do dog displays. I have a llama trekking business. I train llamas, I train pigs, I train all sorts of other animals as well. So I I'm basically an all-round sort of animal trainer, and mainly on the dog side is sort of really my mainstay from the business point of view.
And how did you get into it? Because you don't say, the behaviour aspect. I know you do work with people who've got real issues with the behaviour as well as just general training. How did you get into this?
It's I think it's one of those things that it was always meant to be for me, that I was going to be doing something with animals. I was brought up a lot with animals, related to them really well, and just have a natural affinity with animals. And my love of dogs is like huge. And then kind of from training my own dogs, I realized that I had huge talent, I guess, in being able to do this. And I got really good results with my own dogs and helping other people with their dogs. So kind of over the years, I've honed my craft. I studied psychology. That's kind of my academic background, which is something that I'm obviously really interested in. And it's kind of grown and grown from there. Didn't help that my husband is animal mad as well. His background, he was a police dog instructor. So again, the dog training element came in from there. So I've kind of had 30 years or so, gosh, it's scary because I'm aging myself, of the best, most exciting journey training animals and doing the most wacky things at times. But also, having a serious element behind there where I view it as quite, I'm quite serious about my responsibility that I have to help people with their dogs. And that's kind of where I tend to concentrate my efforts on nowadays. I still run around the fields, roll around the fields, up the mountains with the animals, etc. as well. I'm very much hands-on. But I feel that I'm now in a very privileged position, and I have been for quite a period of time where I've been able to use my knowledge and help other people with that. So from that perspective, I'm president of the Guild of Dog Trainers. I've just been given that promotion, which has been very nice. I've been the chairwoman of the Guild of Dog Trainers for the last 10 years or so now. And I've just been invited to be the president, which I'm hugely proud of.
Wow, that's awesome. And then is the Guild of Dog Trainers, what is that? Is that an association that dog trainers are part of? Or
yeah, that's exactly that. Yeah, it's an association that represents dog trainers in the UK, and it's specifically for pet dog trainers. So that's my real passion, really, I guess, because that's where the majority of dogs are pets. And, we want to make sure that, the training's right. So then those dogs are going to develop into really nice, socially acceptable dogs, and people are going to be able to enjoy their pets. But also I am involved a lot with the behavioural side of things. So we run a behavioural referral centre here, and we see a lot of dogs that have got issues. And again, I'm just, I've been in a privileged position that, certainly for quite a long time now, I've been able to see dogs through their insurance policies. Yeah. So that kind of sets me apart. And that's because I'm a member of an organisation called the Canine and Feline Behaviour Association. And as a full member of that means I'm eligible to do that because they recognise my expertise. And that's really good, because that means that, I'm more available, and my knowledge is more available to people, because when you're unraveling behavioural issues, it's not something that's, easy to do. Just because you can kind of train a dog or get a dog to follow a little bit of food or whatever on that level doesn't mean that you have that in-depth knowledge and ability to be able to basically change a dog's behaviour. And when we're looking at problems like aggression, etc., we are looking at serious issues that have massive impacts on on that dog's life, but on their life with that dog.
Gosh. So do you do, I mean, going back into, obviously you say that you're the president of the Guild of Dog Trainers. That's what it's called, wasn't it?
That's it. You got it.
Brilliant. And did you just start by being a member when you started to train dogs, like formally, and just kind of being the president? Is amazing.
President. It sounds really, really official. That's really good. I quite like that.
It comes with the crown. But did you just start joining it when you just did? Because there's lots of different levels of dog training as well. You know, there's people like that do training at village halls and people that do training in woods and one. Is that how you started?
Yeah, I think the industry in general has completely changed over the years. I've obviously been in the industry for a long period of time, and dog training was very much, and the trainers out there, they tended to be people that were hobbyist people that enjoyed training their own dogs, maybe did a little bit of competition obedience or agility, something like that. Or they would tend to come from a more professional background, maybe the police dog trainers, etc. And that historically was where most people would go to train their dogs. And it would be, like you say, village hall on a whatever night, and you go and train your dogs. And those classes and clubs still exist. And they're a really good grassroots level for people being able to learn and pick up tips with their dogs, etc. But over the years, the dog training industry has become more of a recognised profession, if you like. And interestingly enough, that's actually had its problem. That's caused a lot of problems, as well as like the positives associated with it, because it's been a huge growth area. And it kind of came in when dog walking became a thing, and daycares, etc., and pet sitting. And it's kind of this natural progression. It's almost like I've become a dog walker, then I want to become a dog trainer, and then I'll be a dog behaviourist. And there is no recognised qualification, if you like, that says you are now a dog trainer or you are now a certified dog behaviourist. So in effect, anybody can put that brass plaque on their wall and say, I am a dog trainer and behaviourist. So that is still the case now. Anybody could do that.
But I could say that.
Yeah, anybody could do that.
Wow.
Anybody could open up and do that. However, that's the big thing, is that what's happening now is that is actually changing. And it's just working out how that's going to be policed properly, because what happens, every industry basically has like an occupational standard that's set by the government, if you like. So if you're going to be a nurse, there will be a list of what you have to do to be able to be a nurse and to be qualified for a nurse. So that standard has now been set with dog training and dog behaviour as well. And I was part of that. And that's why I feel so passionate about being involved with an organisation such as the Guild, because I'm representing, a huge body of dog trainers there. And I take that quite seriously. It's really important that we have a voice and that we can influence these things. And I know with that in particular, it was dealt with Lantra, and the Guild was very much involved in writing those skill sets that needed to be put in place, but also, pushing it through. And at the time, the problem was that they were looking at generically classing dog trainers as animal trainers or animal behaviourists. But the big argument that we had at the time was that dogs have a very unique place in society. They live in our family as part of our family, really, and no other animal really, you could argue maybe a cat does and a hamster or something like that, but no animal really does it the same as a dog. So we needed that to be covered and be recognised, because it is important in that. So that is now being in place, and that is actually being processed through. And hopefully, and I think it is a positive thing, and hopefully in the few years to come, when the member of the public goes along and looks for a dog trainer or a behaviourist, they can pick somebody and know that they do meet a certain level and criteria.
And it is so important. I mean, as I said, if I could put something on my wall and say I'm a dog trainer, I wouldn't. Like, I'm okay with my own dogs, and Jan was wild, but she walked nicely to heel, she sat, she did this and this. But I can do that with that dog that behaved. The point of working with a trainer, a behaviourist, is it's what do you do when it doesn't do what you expect.
Exactly.
That depth of knowledge is what you need from an expert to say, I can see what's happening here. This is what we need to do, rather than, well, I've never seen that before. You don't want that, do you? It's not what you're paying for.
No, exactly. And that was a big problem with behaviour as well, because a lot of behaviour it was academically based. I do come from an academic background as well as a hands-on background. That's something that's so important. I'm so lucky because I've been in that position where I've been able to have my hands on a lot of dogs. I've owned a lot of dogs. I've worked with a lot of dogs. I see a lot of clients as well, literally thousands of dogs. But I put myself out there to be able to do that when I was learning my craft. So it's a nice position to be in. If somebody brings their dog to see me, I need to be able to show them what to do. I don't want to sit behind a desk and tell them what they've got to do. It's so important that I've got that expertise and that knowledge, which I can then, help them with. And again, that's a little bit of a weakness that's there with behaviour work at the moment. But, that's being addressed. And I think people are aware of that. And, hopefully in the years to come, that will improve and improve and improve. There's a lot of good courses out there now that are helping people get that hands-on experience. And again, that's what's so great about the Guild. It offers courses as well. It's a non-profit making organisation. So that's, again, it's a good thing, kind of representing what needs to be representing the dogs, basically, and trainers and people. But there's courses there, etc., so that it's helping the trainers of the future get the right education as well, which is always a good thing.
Now, obviously, something that happened fairly recently is COVID. We're recording this; it's not like it's gone away. But during COVID, the price of dogs went mad. I have just bought a puppy, and actually, I have to say, if you are thinking of buying a puppy, book some time with Sue. It is worth it. I learned Sue very kindly. Had a Zoom with me, and I learned so much before I even got Indy, like weeks before I even found a breeder, actually, and just got a load of information about what to look for, because it is a jungle out there. It really is. I mean, prices of dogs went absolutely through the roof during COVID, and I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, gave rise to perhaps some less scrupulous breeders, and some people breeding like their pet dogs perhaps don't have the health tests in the background, but still for a lot of money. And a lot of dogs were bought during that period.
Yeah, definitely. The massive growth. And in some ways, I think we sort of hone in on the negatives, but there's some positives from it as well, because people did have time on their hands. We've all changed very much our outlook. I think we all want a bit more of our free time and focus in on what we're getting out of our life, more so than just going to work and that lobotomist type thing. But also it was a good time. You were locked down, you were in the position where you had the time to bring up a dog. Yes, it restricted what you could do socialization wise, which is definitely causing issues. But unfortunately, it did give the rise to a lot of dogs being bred. There was the problem with breeding, and people can be really down on dog breeders, and I personally am quite pro breeders. The people who breed that I know are very passionate people. They want the best. They look at their bitch. Their bitches are amazing. They put the heart and soul into it. They're very selective with what dog they're going to use. They know the genetics behind their dogs. They look at health testing their dogs, and then they really research the people who are going to buy their puppies, and they take pride in what they do. Now, that to me is the right breeder. That's what a breeder should do automatically. But of course, regardless of COVID, whether COVID existed or not, there was still puppy farms there. There were still dogs being smuggled into the country. There were still people just popping dogs together because why not? We'll make some money out of that. So there's always that. So it's a case of really, I think, the buyers being very aware and educating people to look and go to the right place for a puppy. But you're right, breeding increased in some ways, but in other ways there were restrictions on that because you couldn't travel around. There was a lot of the breeders and the people, when I say breeders, I'm talking about the very ethical breeders. They couldn't go and travel to a stud dog because you couldn't do that in COVID. You weren't allowed to do that.
No, you
so
weren't.
Their bitches might come and seize them, but if they didn't have a stud dog of themselves at home to use, then they wouldn't have had those pups. So actually, a lot of the good breeders and the very ethical breeders didn't breed puppies, because they couldn't physically go and do that. But you then have this shortage going on, and I think that also drove up prices. The other thing that drove up prices as well, that I think is often missed, is the fact there's an awful lot of dogs brought into the country from abroad for rescue, etc. And also a lot of puppies are smuggled into the country as well. Unfortunately, not something we want, but it's there. And because of the COVID restrictions and the lack of movement around the country, that stopped. So again, shortage of dogs. So there was a shortage as well. So although a lot more people wanted dogs, and there was this big demand, well, prices go up with demand. It was one of those, really. But yes, it did drop. I think it's more the aftermath now that we're seeing, is because then that's when people, now we're able to move around, they've kind of jumped on this being able to breed their dogs and it's going to make money. And what's happening now is the public are becoming really, really savvy, which is brilliant. They're kind of insisting, like, if I want a dog, I want a health tested dog, I'm going to make sure that the parents have health tested, they're nice dogs, etc., which is brilliant. So if people now are just putting any dog to any dog and forgetting about doing things like health tests, etc., the public are just giving it like, no, we don't want one from you, we're going to go somewhere where we can get that. And now we're getting puppies that people don't want, because, as I say, there's so many being bred because people want this money, and prices are beginning to come down a little bit as well there. That's
really interesting. I hadn't thought about the kind of the supply and demand angle, actually, that there wasn't the supply. So I know with obviously you've got Indy now, as I said, Sue has been flipping amazing. I could not recommend booking a session with Sue enough. But actually my breeder ticked all those boxes you said. Basically, I knew what I was looking for, and this poor woman who is awesome. If you're looking for a dog in my neck of the woods, do let me know what Labrador. Well, she does breed a couple of different sorts, and I sent her this list of questions as for following our chat, and she answered every single one. She stalked me online, which isn't terribly hard with my name, but she's like, no, I've checked you out. I've seen your previous 2 dogs. I'm like, oh,
yeah. Oh.
And she's like, no, I really, I would really like you to have a dog. Obviously, when we progress the conversation, she's like, no, I think your lifestyle is really good for what the dog, our dogs. And I was like, oh, I've been vetted, and it was brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, if you came to me and you wanted a puppy for me, not that I breed very often, but when I do breed, honestly, I'm the world's worst. You're not having one of my puppies unless you meet every criteria. And I do. I want vet details. I want references, but because I take it really seriously. These little puppies didn't ask to be born. As the breeder, you have a responsibility. You've decided that they're going to come into this world, so therefore you have that responsibility to make sure that you get the best possible homes for those dogs. Yeah. And you owe it to them at the end of the day.
And also, I know Indy came with a big, well, not a massive contract, but I'm sure when you sell dogs, you have a contract as well with everything in place. But I'm sure part of that is, if at any point I don't want the dog, they get first refusal. Of course, if you're trying to find homes for your dogs, you want to really stack the odds in your favor. You're not going to get a whole litter of adult dogs back, don't you?
Well, yeah, I suppose there's that. But to be perfectly honest, I mean, over the years, I bred with the breeding side of things, German Shepherds, Labradors, Spaniels, for the police mainly. So, going back sort of 20 years ago, we were breeding a lot of dogs for the police. So those litters were going to the police, or any of those dogs that potentially weren't going to make police dogs, or they didn't need them. They would then perhaps go as pet dogs as well. When I talk about police dogs, I don't mean aggressive dogs. Actually, the most sensible, steady dogs that you could ever meet, to be perfectly honest, superb temperaments on them. But, even now, I get people going, well, I had a dog off you X amount of years ago, and we're thinking about another one. Are you going to breed? And that's what, as a breeder, or somebody's been a litter, that's what you want. You want to keep in contact with the people who have had dogs off you and share that journey. You've been a huge part of that first sort of 8 weeks of that puppy's life. And it's great. It makes you proud. I know in my online community, Pawesome, I've got a couple of people. In fact, I've got more than a couple of people. I've got quite a few people in there who have had dogs off me. And I'm so proud when I see like a picture of them or the video, or I see them training their dog. I'm just like, oh, this is amazing. I love this. This is like what you live for. That's why you do it,
So obviously you said that you've been involved with police dogs a bit. One of my best friends is a police dog handler, and I'm in awe of her dog. She's got a little spaniel. He's not that little. She's got a spaniel who's a drugs dog.
Yeah.
He's got a large dog. I want to say is German Shepherd and
or a Malinois, maybe.
That one mixture.
There we go. Yeah.
He's beautiful. I mean, you wouldn't cross him. He's lovely, but he's a beast, and I adore them both, but they're beautifully well behaved, actually. Again, I wouldn't want to be running away from him when he was trying to catch me, but they're amazing dogs, and I think that's a really great example of the level of training that you can do with a dog, and particularly with the angrier dogs, the bigger ones. Like, they're there to protect the police handler as much as to do the job, aren't they? And it's a whole
it's kind of like, I'll pull you up on your angry bit, because actually they're not really angry. It's with the police dogs, I mean, I've been involved with them for many years, both on the breeding side. Obviously, my husband, a police dog instructor, I've retired from that, doing that nowadays. But we supply a lot of dogs for the police and the prison service over the years. And also I've done a lot of consultancy work for police forces as well, where I go in and maybe they've got a training issue with one of the dogs or something, and I can kind of throw another view or put another angle on things and help them on that perspective. But the dogs that we would bring on for the police, so we might have litters where we might keep a couple of puppies back and then they would be brought on for the police. One of them in particular I was very proud of, and it's quite a funny story really. This is one of my first ones. We kept 3 dogs back for the police, and we named all these dogs, lovely names, and one of the names, this is just mad, I don't know why I did this, but I was young and naive, I called it Shooter. I just thought it was a cracking name for a dog. Exactly, perfect, police dog. Only problem came in years later when he became a firearms dog. Shooter wouldn't have been a very good name. He changed his name. When he went into the police, they recognised that, and he changed his name, which was fine. But but he was a dog I was particularly proud of, because he was one of the first ones. And I'm going back a long time now, but we took these puppies to Crufts when they were about 14 weeks old.
Oh, wow.
And we did a demonstration on the Arden Grange dog stands, and we were doing a demonstration with these puppies, showing what police puppies would do, the kinds of things we were looking for, and just showing the kind of things we'd do to start off with them at that young age. And he was there then. And then he went on and he represented Cheshire Police, and he won their regional trial. So I was very, very proud of that, because we had the dog till he was about 18 months old. So very proud of his handler and him actually going on to do that. He became called Hunter. And then he actually, when he retired, he got an award, and he was down at Crufts for that award, and I happened to be there at the same time as well. And I just thought it was so touching that he'd been there as a baby, and then kind of as he was retiring, he was there, and it was just so special. So things like that I did really good. But yeah, just going back to what you're saying about the police dogs and that, everything's taught, it's man-made. They are a special type of dog. The temperament's got to be right. Big misconception is that, particularly when you're looking at the German Shepherds, the Malinois, etc., people are thinking of the general purpose dog, if you like, one that bites the people, as being an aggressive dog. They're not aggressive dogs. They're taught to show aggression under certain situations.
No, completely.
Like that, and it's all very controlled. So yes, they run off, and everybody loves to watch the dog run off, apprehend the criminal by grabbing hold of his arm, and then brings him down, and then kind of comes off and does what he does. But it is actually controlled, but at bottom line is, at some point though, and my husband's the one to speak to with this because he's worked with those dogs, but genuinely it is, they are there to do a job, and they are protecting that policeman or policewoman, as you said quite rightly. And I know my husband had plenty of situations where he probably owes his life to the dog. One in particular where it was apprehending a knifeman, that he no doubt he would have been stabbed, and that dog got an amazing commendation for the work and that him and Derek did that particular day. So they perform an amazing role, and that kind of led us on, because obviously with Derek's background and what I do, we've done dog displays for many years, and we have a pet dog display team, Cheshire Dog Display Team, that we ran for many years. And then kind of over the years, we kind of moved over to what we call the Shadow Quest working dog display, where we basically showcase these specialist working dogs, the police dogs, the service dogs, the search and rescue, disaster searching dogs. And we do displays at big shows and that. And prior to COVID, that's what I was basically doing all my summers. I mean, playing dogs. I mean, being paid to take these dogs out and play. And it was great. We would show the bringing on of the puppies, footage showing the bite work, the dogs showing their control with that, the dogs going over ramps with fire. We had a zip line where a search rescue dog would be going down the zip line.
Oh my God.
And we'd also be showing, the scent work exercises, detection work exercises, etc. So we'd be doing lots of large events, the likes of your dog fests, your big county shows, your game fairs, etc. Great, me and my elements, training dogs, and more people who want to watch the better as well. So great fun.
Absolutely. Now, when you said about you obviously do a lot with behavioural work, and you have a lot of dogs that can and stay with you.
They don't stay for the behavioural work.
Oh, don't they? Sorry.
No. Behavioural work, with behavioural work, it's really important that the owner helps and is very much involved in that modification process,
right? Because
ultimately the owner's the person living with the dog. So if I took a dog with a behavioural problem, say a dog that barks with other dogs, got quite a common behavioural problem that I tend to see, then actually, I should be able to manage that behaviour, change that behaviour quite quickly because I'm skilled at what I do. But it's no use me being able to do that because we need to make sure that the dog's doing that with the owner. And the thing with behaviour, it's very linked in with training. So the two really are totally intrinsically linked. You can't do one without the other, if you like. But by definition, how I would try and separate it slightly is if we're training, I would view something as teaching a dog a set task, something like a sit. You're training a behaviour there, lie down, etc., walk on a slack lead. That's what I would term as training. When I look at behaviour, it's more what's going on in here. It's how the dog's thinking. So, for example, going back to a dog walking past other dogs and maybe barks, he barks because of what he's thinking. Yeah. We can manage it with training. Sometimes we can manage that with training, but if we have to keep managing it with training, we're only managing it. To deal with it properly, we have to change how he thinks, and by doing that, that's when we look at behaviour and behaviour modification. And that relationship is very much governed by how the dog thinks, but also how it views its owner. Because if we've got a dog that is maybe concerned by something, hence why it barks more often than not, if it doesn't believe its owner's got its back or feels safe when it's got its owner there, or maybe is protecting the owner, then that can have a massive influence and stop the successful rehabilitation of that particular dog.
I see. So I guess it's a bit like if you've got a horse that you go to a training clinic on, and you walk up and this amazing trainer says, "I'll ride your horse," and they climb on it and they make it do all the things you would dream of doing. And you think, wow, that's really cool. The horse can do it. And then you get on at home and you're like, well, this isn't the same. You haven't learned that skill, have you?
Exactly. But I mean, I think the hard thing with it as well is that you've got the two elements. You've got the person that you've got to train and make sure that the person understands what they've got to be doing. And sometimes these people have lost a lot of confidence with the dog, especially if we're looking at aggression, and quite rightly so, because some of these dogs can be quite naughty. But also then we've got the dog elements as well. And if the dog doesn't understand, so that we've got these two elements. So it is a real skill. It's a bit like I always equate it to just changing onto a different animal completely, but my llamas. Yeah. So with our llamas, we do llama displays with them. We are the weird and wonderful Black Rock Llama racing team. And when I do displays with the llamas, part of that display is that we get members of the public out to work those llamas, and they do basically an agility course, if you like. So the llamas jump over jumps, weave through poles, duck under things. But the members of the public do this as a relay race. So when we're teaching those llamas in the first place, when we went around it with all of them actually, but when we originally thought of it, we thought, well, that's fine, me doing it, because I kind of know these animals and they know me and I kind of know what I'm doing. I don't know how I taught myself to be able to do that with llamas, but we had some weird wonderful idea about it and it works. But that's with me. But if you take me out of the way and I'm not on the end of that leading rope, that animal, that llama needs to know what he's doing. He's got to know his job. So when we teach them to know what they're doing. So that if actually you took the leading rein off and you took the person completely out of the way, the llama goes, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm jumping over those jumps and weaving through those poles. I'm jumping over those jumps and then I get a reward at the end for it. So that's kind of the skill set. So that's where the training and that comes in. And I think when people go to like the shows and they kind of have a go at it, they're totally oblivious that it doesn't matter if they're really on the end of that leading rein or not. But hey, it's good fun.
Good fun, absolutely. Now, another thing that happened obviously during COVID is, so much happened during COVID, but a lot of people's ability to travel, to train, to do things, to train their dogs, to help them have a better life was massively impinged. And I guess that was one of the reasons you started your fabulous online dog club and community.
Yeah, definitely. It did. COVID had a big impact, didn't it, on how we communicate. And, it was really hard to not be able to help those people that we would have previously been able to help. And, there were still problems with dogs going on. It's just that the poor people had to deal with that in their home environment. I've always steered away from being able to use sort of like the virtual platform, if you like, for helping people with the dogs. Never sat well with myself or Derek really doing sort of virtual consultations, etc. Because part and parcel when we see dogs and we help the owners with the dogs, we learn so much off the dog by actually working with that dog. And there's lots of subliminal messages that are coming through from that dog, if you like, that help us set a program in place. Because every dog's completely individual, and what we might do with each dog will be different to the next. So it doesn't sit well. One of the things we like to do is to assess a dog. Yeah. We will be involved, put our hands on messing about, messing about, trying different things with the dog, and then working out what's best, and then getting the owner to do it. Then that's kind of how we work with things. That's how it works really well. So obviously you can't do that when you then suddenly go online. But the COVID situation made me realise that actually there is a place for it, and it changed my mind to say, well, look, it's not the best. It's not what you can do as your best. However, you can reach far more people and give them good information that's really going to help them, because the problem is there's so much information, as you know, you were talking about this before. There is so much information out there, you can almost blow your mind. And one of the things with training a dog or any animal is consistency is really important, and getting that right information. And it's how do you go on and look at YouTube or Facebook or whatever? Everybody's a dog expert anyway, and you put all these things in, and we create this very confused, frustrated dog and very confused, frustrated owner if we're not careful. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of like I started doing some of these Zoom consultations, and do you know what amazed me? I get so many from America, which is really cool. And I found I had one a little while ago, which was so funny, because the lady was coming on talking about this recall, and most people in the UK, when they're talking recall, it's when they're out and about with the dogs that they worry about the recall. This lady was just not bothered about being out. She was bothered about in her garden, and I was kind of like, well, most people in the UK aren't bothered about that, until I realised that at her back garden the coyotes came in at night. So it was really important. This little it was a little Chihuahua cross. It was really important that he had a good recall, because she didn't want him running around the garden at night when the coyotes could get him. And that was quite funny, actually, but that's kind of by the by. So yeah, it's meant that I can broaden and spread the words a little bit more, which is really good, because I'm very passionate about how I train. I have a particular way based on sort of communicating with the dog in the right way, so the dog understands when it's doing something right, when it's doing something wrong. And I'm really, really passionate about getting that right and motivating the dog, and the dog should be part of the process, and you get them on side rather than blinking go against them all the time.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I've been able to push that message across to more people. And then I kind of developed it into Pawesome, which is kind of Pawesome, the Ultimate Dog Club, I think we call it, where I had this vision that I could open this like virtual sort of online training club, if you like, where I could be on there and support people, and also involve vets from the health perspective, look at sort of more things, so it's more community-based really, and help people in that sort of safe environment where you feel quite happy to chat about the problems you might have or not have. And to be honest, I'm really enjoying it. It's something that, I go on to, there's a Facebook group, I go on it most days and, look at what people have been doing. We've set challenges for the people, and it's fab. I love watching what they're doing with their dogs. So that's kind of one of the things I've been working on lately, and I'm really enjoying it.
But it's a lovely group, and I don't think that the way Pawesome set up, it compromises any of the, and I know what you mean. Sometimes you can see these sort of virtual clubs that are meant to take the place of a different thing. But I think what you've done with Pawesome is it could actually work very nicely alongside someone coming to you for training.
Yeah, that's the idea, really. So yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. It's to complement, really. It really is to complement what they've done. So a lot of my own clients come into it because it's a way that I can keep tabs on what they're doing and keeps that support going, which is really nice. And because it's so friendly, and they know I'm on there and it's policed so well, it doesn't matter. They can come on and go, oh my God, this has gone wrong, or look at me, I've done a video and what am I doing wrong? And they're not scared to do that because they know that they're not there to be judged, that we're there to help. And I think that's what's so important about it. So yeah, it's kind of like getting the message out there. Obviously my passion is training dogs and the animals and everything. So we set it up. I know you've been very instrumental. I've been really delighted being part of the mastermind group. I've got to say that's been really helpful to me, because I'm a dog trainer and behaviourist at the end of the day, and wacky animal person. I'm not a marketing guru or anything like that. And I know that you've been great when I've been setting things up, when I've messaged you and said, oh help, how do I do this? And you've really tried to help and support me on that. It's been really, really helpful. So thank you for that. But yeah, it's that. So it's kind of, it's very early days with it, but it's been going enough to get the feel of it. I've got the feel of what I wanted now, how it best helps and supports people. And that, so now we've actually made a website as well to complement it. And what we're doing is we're offering like a free trial for people to come in, because there is a small charge to go in, but I am hands-on on it. You know, it's not compared to, you know, if you come and see me privately, you'll pay, you know, you do pay quite a lot of money to see me, but it, you know, it's a nominal small charge just to be a member. But I am on it, and I do answer people directly. I do put a lot of videos and a lot of content out there that's going to be helpful, and that's directed by the people. The other thing that I do on it is I do sort of Zoom or meeting rooms groups, and we do those so that we can kind of chat face to face, kind of like we're doing here. So it's really good.
But also, I think that, how much do you charge for Pawesome now?
I charge £9.99 a month, with the first month free.
Complete bargain. Getting that sort of, I know obviously we've talked a lot about dogs and puppies in Indy, and the information that bombards you. It's the same with horses, it's the same with kids, it's the same with dogs. Everyone's got an opinion, which is great. I think most people come at you from the point that they want to help you, but not everyone's opinions and advice is created equal. And when you're desperate to do the right thing, because, you know, if you get a dog or you get a horse, you have a kid, whatever, you want to do the right thing. But it's incredibly overwhelming to work out what that right thing is. And having that kind of rubber stamped place saying, the people in here who are teaching you are qualified vets. They are proper dog trainers, proper behaviourists. If you're getting this advice from them and you follow that, it's based on loads of experience, hands-on experience with people. That is so, so valuable.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of where, I mean, I actually love it, if I'm honest. I absolutely really enjoy doing it as well, because of the results I see from it and seeing what people are doing. But it is, like you say, you know, there's so much information out there, people do get confused. And, you know, it is important. Consistency is a huge part of success when it comes to dog training. So if we're not consistent, it won't work. And sometimes, you know, we're a very instant society nowadays. You know, we have our instant meals, we get, you know, what a bit of information, we're on Google, we are so instant, but we've got to remember that animals aren't instant. Training an animal is not an instant process. So I think sometimes just the grounding where somebody can go to you who knows what they're doing, like myself, who's done it, and I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times with lots of different dogs, not just set breeds as well. You know, I have Chihuahua, I work on display team, I have the mongrels, I've dog rescue dog. I've kind of been in this really privileged position where I have and do experience a lot of different dogs. So I can say to you quite hand on heart that that's going to work, and I know it's going to work if you do it. But you've got to do it. And it is having that confidence and for people to understand that, you know, maybe they've been doing something for a couple of weeks and seeing some sort of progress, but then somebody comes along and goes, well, have you watched that video on YouTube? Because actually, you know, it shows an instant result. Try that. And then the person tries that, and the poor dog who's just getting it goes, oh my God, what's going on now? And then it blows everything out the window. And also it ruins the relationship between dog and owner, because there's a trust element there, and consistency again forms part of that relationship. Because we tend to, as humans, think of a relationship as, does the dog love me or not? Are we nice to it or not? But we wouldn't think things along the lines of our consistency in our response and our behavior with the dog is actually really fundamental to that relationship. So those sorts of things, I try and push those messages through as much as I possibly can, because to me, they're what makes the success come, definitely on that side.
And the community as well, you know, I think for a lot of us, like when I go out walking, I usually walk on my own with a dog. I usually train on my own with the dog, because, you know, I absolutely could go to classes, and it's something I haven't discounted, but trying to juggle family, work, horses with class times can be really difficult. So if you do quite a lot of stuff on your own, you can feel quite isolated, and then having somewhere like, you know, Pawesome, that kind of online club that, you know, people have got your back. When something goes well and you go, oh my God, the dog came back the first time, it was amazing, it was dear. It's lovely to share those wins. And also when something doesn't go quite as well, realizing it's not an unmitigated disaster in most cases, and it happens to the best of us, and you kind of go for that bit of support, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And it is really good, because actually the members that I have are really good members in there, and they engage a lot, which is really nice. And, you know, they post, you know, like you say, the wins, you know, we see the wins, we see the woes, but it's kind of like, you know, and they can offer support. And the thing is, they've probably, or they might have experienced that with their dog, and they can say, look, do you know, I'm so many months down the road from where you are now So stick with it and look where I am now, you know, and all that I think is quite inspiring and just helps you, because like you say, it can be quite a solo journey. But also from the other perspective, for the people who do go training, and I have some trainers that are in the group as well there, it's just nice to have somewhere where you can kind of talk dog. I mean, most of us are very crazy dog people, aren't we, at the end of the day? So it's nice. And it's same with things like, you know, products that we look at, product reviews. I don't sell products. I have no vested interest in any of the products that we perhaps look at. But I just want to give honest reviews on there and say, well, look, this product could help you, or, you know, that's a bit of a gimmick or something, you know. And I think that, again, there's massive value in that, because, you know, there's no ulterior motive, if you like, and I want it to stay that way as well.
I can save you a fortune. I bought her a heartbeat toy on your recommendation.
Oh, they're great.
Which she goes to bed with every night. And I feel like that has possibly, hopefully, contributed to her settling so well at night, because she's got something that she sort of snuggles up with a hot water bottle, and her, we call him Lamb Chop, he is a sheep with this beating.
Oh, you got the sheep, did you? Okay.
I haven't really got the dog, but it was funny because we took the heart out of it. This sounds awful. If you don't know what it is, it's like a cuddly toy with a little pocket that you put a battery operated beating heart in. So for puppies, it's quite soothing for them. We put the beating heart into the key pot because I didn't want the kids getting it or the dog having it in the day. My husband threw his keys in the key pot, completely forgot the beating heart was in there, trundled off to the lounge and came back, and there was this like crazy noise in the key pot. It was like, oh my God, what is it? I was like, oh yeah, that would be the beating heart. Or when you lose the beating heart and you start shouting, where is the beating heart to the children? It's fun. But again, you know, when I was looking at different things to buy her, so many, and I know some are great, but I am sure, again, a bit like with kids and horses, a lot is like really good stuff, really useful, absolutely got its place. And other stuff is it necessary? If you want to buy it, knock on, you absolutely crack on. But is it necessary? Because we need to make sure we've got those essentials before we go and buy the other stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff there. It's not even just, you know, if you can be pre-prepared, like with your pup, you know, it's really nice that you know, you're getting a puppy, you can pre-prepare everything. You can buy kind of all the things that you want to have there, because you can know what you can use them for. And that's the thing, it's kind of like you're preempting. So something like the heart beating toy that you can snuggle up with, by having that immediately, it meant that you didn't have to worry about whether or not your dog didn't settle at night. You did everything right first. So you don't know. But if you hadn't have got it, and then you'd rung me up and said, look, you know what, I've got a problem, the dog's screaming place down at night, then I recommend it to you. We've already had a problem with called anxiety on your dog. So it's nice to know that, you know, something like that, or if we've got another product that I actually reviewed recently, something called a relaxer pad. Now that's for anxiety in dogs. It works really well around fireworks nights, that type of thing. And it is a great product, I've got to say. But I trialed that product quite a long time ago when it was first came into the country, and had great success with it. But if I could actually tell the members about that, so that they could actually start using it and have it there for when they needed it around November. So it's kind of like having the thing there just stops that anxiety and that stress in the dog in the first place, which is kind of what we want to do, eh?
No, definitely. So thinking about your kind of whole journey, obviously there's highs and lows to any business journey. And I think when you work with animals, all the more, really. What's been a kind of low that, I'm going to ask you a high as well, don't panic. What's been a sort of low on your journey, or something that you thought, God, this is just really hard, or, you know, made you sort of question anything?
Oh, it's hard that. Now, do you know what? That's a really good question.
But I have to say, from obviously getting to know you in various different ways, I feel like you're the kind of person that would look at a negative and go, what have I learned? How can I be better? How can I improve? What can I do differently? I feel like you're that person that is always on that journey and looking for improvement, rather than just
I think you've probably summed me up really well there. I think I never look at something when I'm training, I never look at something being, oh, that's awful, that's a problem, this, whatever. I'm more likely to go, okay, what am I doing wrong? Why is it not getting it? What am I doing? And I reflect. I'm very good at reflecting and looking back and taking that responsibility myself. And so if the dog's not doing something, or the animal's not doing something, I know that that's my responsibility, and I enjoy that challenge and working through. But I suppose one of the things that I found the hardest, I suppose if I go right back, is naturally I'm quite an introverted person, believe it or not. When I tell people I was not a confident person, they were like, no way. way. You can talk to anybody. You're going to do this. You're going to do displays, TV, you'll do this. And I'm like, no, I honestly, I would not say boo to a goose. Not naturally that outgoing, extroverted type of person. I've learned that, and with the confidence, and learned that confidence. I remember sort of years ago, this is kind of going back just off dogs now onto a pig, but years ago,
Of
I was in
course.
the 20s and I got a Kuni pig. I was desperate for this Kuni pig. So we went around, did all the research, and I had in my head, I think I'd watched Babe, the video, you know, the film video,
Yeah.
of Babe. And I was like, no, I just got to train a pig, got to train this pig. So I got Purdy, the pig, a Kuni pig. And I trained Purdy, and I was in my 20s, and Purdy was amazing. And she'd do all these tricks, she'd weave in and out of my legs, she'd sit, she'd twirl around for me. I got a skateboarding. This pig was, I mean, awesome. And she opened my eyes to what animals can do, because I knew, and she was a real challenge to me, that you couldn't push or pull a pig around. You know, pig-headed comes from somewhere, the saying, you know, and yeah. I wanted to make sure, it was a way of sort of honing my skills, and I just had a thing about pigs as well. So I learned an awful lot from her. But going back to being quite introverted, I reached how I don't know, but it's one of my claims, but it's very different. I got page 3 of The Sun. I was on page 3 of The Sun, not topless, I might add.
It's taking a turn.
My pig ended up, a picture of my pig, and about me, a feature on page 3 of The Sun with my pig skateboarding. Okay, hysterical, I know. A great claim to fame. And I was like so naive and young and kind of like not confident. I didn't realize how the media role worked from that. So this hit all the papers. The next thing, like up our driveway knocking on the door, are all the bloody journalists and the TV companies wanting to go and do stuff with them and go on the, you know, the This Mornings, etc., etc. And I was like, oh my God, I can't. You know what, I can't do this. You know, this is too much. This is not what I can do. I wasn't kind of expecting that. And I kind of like, that was that. I sort of backed out of it all as much as I could gently. And then I kind of looked at it at the time and thought, you know, you need to really just up your game here. You've obviously can do stuff. And what you've done obviously is really, you know, important. What I did with the pig, the whole idea of it is I took her out with the dog display team.
Oh my God.
And the idea was that to show the public, to educate the public, that if you train in the right way, you can train a pig the same as you could train a dog. It doesn't matter what the animal is, as long as you do it with kindness and that you communicate on a level that that animal understands properly, anything's kind of possible. So Purdy would go out on the displays, and we did a great routine where there would be a German Shepherd. One of the ladies on the team, Deb, had a German Shepherd Seb there, and we would do this little routine. Anything you can do, I can do better. So she had her German Shepherd, and it would be like, well, the commentator would be saying, who was Derek, would be saying, so can your pig sit? Because Seb can sit. So Seb would sit, and then my pig, I'd just go sit, and she'd sit. And okay, well, that's not that great. Well, can your pig do this? Can your pig do that? And we went through this sort of whole repertoire. And at the end, I would do something with the pig, which was quite a complex task that the dog couldn't do. And the task was that she picked up a quoit and she took it and put it on a cone. And then she moved something from the cone and took it to a little car that she had. And she used to push like a toddler thing that they hold on to. And she used to then put the keys into this little compartment on there and push it away. And that was her bit. And the dog would just be like, he should take it up to the cone, and he'd be like, what? And occasionally, if you did it right, he'd kind of like cock his leg as male dogs do, which made it even funnier, really. But there was the beauty, you know, with the displays, a lot of it's about educating as well as entertaining. So if you do it in the right way, and it really helped me get my message across that, you know, you need to train the right way. At the time, you know, dog training had been, you've got to do it. You do it because I'm your master and I tell you how to do this. And push, pull, bum, 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 bum. You can't do that with a pig. It's not going to work. So that kind of, I digressed from your original question of the low point.
All right, I mean, it's worth it.
You know, I can go on for like all these highlights. But talking about Purdy, there was another funny story with her. So she went to do, so I kind of like picked myself up a little bit on that and went like, you know, I've got this pig and she's doing that. Let's at least say, you can go and do the pre-recording stuff. Maybe not go out onto something live. You've got to push your stuff and go to the bits that you feel more confident on. So I got invited to do kids TV series called Brilliant Creatures at the time, which Stephen Mulhern fronted. And they wanted Purdy to go down there. They'd heard about her and go to the studios down in Middlesex and work with them. And anyway, I trained her this set routine that she was going to be doing. And the hard bit was she was having to do it for Stephen Mulhern, not me, because he was going to work her on the camera. And also we trained Kai, one of our German Shepherds, to work for the female presenter that was there as well. So that we kind of had this thing going on. So we did all my training, was ready to go, and then foot and mouth struck. So this is how far long back this is.
Oh God, you couldn't move pigs then?
You couldn't move pigs? I thought they were going to come and kill her. I mean, I was like this neurotic wreck, like, oh my God, if some, she's going to end up being killed. They're not taking her from here. They'll have to do it here. I'll have to. Oh, it was awful. I was so worried about this pig because I had such a good relationship with this animal because she was so clever. And I was, worried like anything. Anyway, this is all, foot and mouth came, it went, Purdy survived it. Luckily, we went in an area. And then they rang me up. This was like 18 months later and said, oh, that routine you're doing with your pig? Can we film it next week? And I'm like, crikey.
Next week?
I'd not done anything with the pig. I hadn't done it deliberately because I was thinking, if they come and kill her, I don't want to be doing too much with it because I'll be oh God, it's going to be bad enough as it is. Anyway, so I went out with the grapes. Purdy loved grapes, and that's what her reward was when she was working. So I went out and I'm like there, and come on, Purdy, come over, sit. She sat, get us a grape, do a little twist, gets a grape. Oh, that's good. She remembers all this. Then I go and start doing all the complex stuff. Do you know that pig had remembered everything?
Oh my God.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. That opened my eyes to animals and how clever they actually really are. That memory retention was unbelievable that she'd learned it. That's just another little story about Purdy, who then, if I continue that story, which is hysterical, we were put up in the Hilton Hotel. And when we went in, we were asked whether or not Purdy was going into the Hilton
With
Hotel.
the pig?
With the pig.
Wow, okay.
I know. So Purdy and myself and Derek were booked into the Hilton Hotel, complimentary of the TV company. And when we went into reception, we were in this queue, and then we get to the front of the queue, and the woman saying, "Oh, and you're here with doing this with this TV? Yeah, right, that's fine. We've got it all. And you've got, what animal have you got? Oh, we've got the pig, Purdy. Right, okay, that's fine. Is Purdy going to be staying in the room with you?" And we're like, no, we didn't actually let her stay in the room. We were mean, really. But there's a guy behind us in the queue who just like looked as if, and he said, "Excuse me, did you say there's a pig coming in?" It was hysterical. Hysterical, Ria, honestly. But yeah, we didn't let Purdy go in the end, bless her. Oh, but she went and did a TV filming. She did it amazingly well. It's still out there to see.
I'm going to YouTube that.
Yeah, and that. So yeah, going back to your note. So then years later, I trained another pig. In between, I've obviously trained different animals, the llamas, the reindeer, whatever. And then I got another pig years later, Louis. And I did some stuff with Louis, and we did some amazing stuff and hit the limelight with Louis. He went worldwide. Everything that we did, we did a cracking picture. I had a photographer here, and there's a picture of Louis jumping with a dog over the same jump at the same time. And the picture is awesome. I'll send it you because you can put it out there.
Oh my God.
And he won the National Geographic Picture of the Year in its category with the photographer. And they just look as though they're having a race. And Louis was awesome. He'd do agility, do everything. So when the media crash came from the Louis bit, I was kind of more prepared. I was older and wiser, more confident. I did. So I did. We did the Blue Peters. We did all the live TV stuff with him. I did so much with him. Super Tiny Animals. We did loads of TV stuff and enjoyed it. So yeah, my low was probably that recognition was you've got to change, because just because you're good at training animals, and the same with the dogs, you've got to be able to relate to the people as well. And even though that wasn't coming natural to me, I had to learn that part. Then years later, I think I was somewhere like Tesco, and so I would always say to people, "Oh no, I'm not really confident." And I remember being in Tesco, I think, and I just thought something in my mind went, "You always say you're not confident, Sue. You talk to everybody. You talk to checkout people, they're your mates. You talk to anybody around. You're not bothered where you walk in, and you say you're not confident. Oh yeah, crack on, girl, crack on, yeah." And that. So there's my journey on with Purdy. Helped me on that, and then Louis later on.
And would you say that that kind of the television and all of that is a high? I guess you have a lot of highs in your job. I mean, I would imagine as well, seeing a dog go from a real problem to not a problem.
Yeah, massive.
Mega high.
depends on the context. So yeah, behavioural work, seeing dogs, you know, that you've been able to rehabilitate them. Maybe you've seen lots of different trainers or behaviourists. People have come to you as a last resort, which normally what happens. And you've been able to sort of save the day, if you like, and those dogs go on to lead a really good life. And these dogs can be in the situation where, you know, there's very little outlet for them. You know, if they can't go into rescue cannot rehome dogs that are bitten with a bite history. It's just not feasible. So those dogs, you know, the outcome's pretty grim for them if you can't get it right. So yeah, those are massive highs. You know, those, you know, I get those, you know, all the time. Owners make me high. The fact, you know, that you've got somebody as an owner who takes on that responsibility so much that they're prepared to do whatever they can for the dog. Massive. Big
I think they're very lucky to have someone like you in their corner as well, because I have in the past had a reactive dog. Millie was quite reactive, and we went to training and she did get much better. But when you feel like you're on your own and you've got a problem that you just cannot fix, it's because obviously I don't have that depth of knowledge for a reactive dog. I've never had a reactive dog before. But having someone in your corner, I think from an owner point of view, is just invaluable.
I think just making it real as well, because the trouble is most of us take what our dog does personally.
Yeah, I really do.
We take that responsibility on board and we think, well, it's like this because we're doing something wrong. And, you know, it's quite brave then for an owner to admit and sort of say, I think I've got this wrong. And to sort of that realization doesn't necessarily sit easy with us humans. So that's one big thing, I think, that, you know, I'm always sort of like really in awe of people that they can do that and take that responsibility. But also just, like you say, to recognize that, you know, a lot of the problems that happen, you know, no owner goes out and gets a dog and goes, right, I'm going to make sure my dog's a problem or an aggressive, or I want my dog to be a problem, do this or cause this. Nobody does that, or very be a slight percentage of
not your people.
No. The people go there because you get your dog and you want the best. You want to do the best for your dog and you want this lovely sort of idealistic, happy family dog. And when it goes wrong, it's kind of recognizing that, coming to terms with that, and then finding the right information. And I think it's one of the things that can sometimes, we'll go back to a low, that one of a particular dog that comes to mind, a particular German Shepherd, where this dog came to severely dog aggressive. And these owners had literally been everywhere. They spent an awful lot of money being here, there and everywhere. And this dog it hadn't got any better. And they'd been fobbed off with a lot of stuff. Oh, it takes time. You know, 18 months down the line, this dog's getting worse, you know. And you can't blame an owner then. That's not the owner. You know, yes, we don't, I mentioned before about things aren't instant. Some things can be more instant than others, but they're not instant. However, we shouldn't, when we look at behaviour modification, we shouldn't be looking at sort of like a week or 2 weeks as being something that we're going to completely solve somewhere. However, we should see improvement. But on the other side of things, we can't be saying that, look, oh, well, we're a year down the line. Oh, yeah, it's fine. It might take 3 years. Hold on, it's going to take till the dog is too old to actually do this. That's unrealistic because people have got to deal with those things. So there's that. But on the other side of things, I suppose, you know, I can be, you know, one of the things that one of the girls here working for me always goes on about is I can just get so excited about the most stupid thing. And one of the things was we had a reindeer here that we bought who was very, very nervy. And there's no book really that tells you how to train these reindeer or get it sleigh, pull a sleigh and all those sort of things. So we kind of work as we go along with, is this working, is it not? And this particular little female reindeer wasn't the most confident thing. And I wanted her to be able to take food. It's really important that I can reward it with something that it wants. And I remember this day, I just could never get it. It was too scared to come and take food off you. There's one day I just kind of worked out that if I've got this big bucket, a normal food bucket, managed to sort of somehow get my hand underneath it, but be nowhere near behind the door, that I could get to the point where she would actually start taking food off me. And I'd been literally like days and days and days doing this, really determined this was going to happen. The day she took food from my hand, I'm like running around the centre here, giving it like, oh my God, I've done it, you know. And I was like, what's she on about? And go, it's taking the food. And I'm only taking some bloody food. But for me, that was a biggie. That was a biggie, you know. But equally, you know, things like just in general, I mean, the stuff I've done a lot of work with. I've got a llama called Casper who I've done a couple of world records with now, and he's like the main man. And that's big highs. You know, we, you know, to have trained and to be able to do that type of thing as well. I'm really proud. I'm proud of the dogs that I've worked on displays. There's so many, I'm just the luckiest person in the world, I'll be honest with you. Got so many, I could keep you here for hours and hours and hours with stories of different animals, different things we've done. I really could.
I don't think it's luck. I think it's a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication, really.
I think it's just a passion. I think if you can find something you're passionate about, then you're so lucky, aren't you? I've always joked now that, from when I'm on an old people's home and I'm sat there, my head is going to be great. All I'm going to be thinking about is all the different displays I've done over the years, all the different animals I've trained, different funny incidences. I'm just going to be able to immerse myself in this world of this amazing life that I've had. And, I'm really grateful to all those animals that I've had the privilege to work and be involved with.
Is there anything else you would like to add or share before I ask you all the places where you can find you? And basically, I'm going to go off and look at YouTube. That's my plan for the day now.
Oh my God, I'm going to send you all the stuff about my boy Casper. I'm going to send you Llama Casper, because he's been doing some really cool stuff. And we were meant to go to Italy filming with him. And obviously COVID came. So I couldn't go and do that. But Casper, in summary, he's a llama that I've trained. And when I got Casper, he was horrible. I don't know why I liked him, because he'd spit kick, he didn't like you, he just didn't trust people. If you let him go in the field, he can jump really well, which is kind of where we got the jumping idea from. But he'd jump out and he'd be on the mountain somewhere, he'd be appearing in one of my neighbours, blinking the stable yards or something. It'd be like, you've got a llama here. Oh, it's a nightmare. You could go for days and then you get him back. It sounds really bad, but we haven't got loads of roads around here. I'm up a mountain in the middle of nowhere. But anyway, so Casper was a real challenge. And I don't know what it was, but I gelled with him. And he became a really good display llama. But then we had this really stupid idea to do a world record with him. So an event called Dogfest, Noel Fitzpatrick, the Supervet, runs this at Arley Hall in Cheshire. In front of thousands in the crowd. I was doing a dog display there as well. We went for the world record in how high can a llama jump. And it was hysterical, because when Guinness set the criteria, the criteria was hysterical. Things like he couldn't use a springboard.
Oh my God.
I know, it's really weird. It's really weird what the stuff they come up with. He was obviously had to be seen by a vet before he did it, and all those sorts of things as well for welfare, which is obviously important. Yeah. But so we did this world record at Arley, and it was basically to jump the highest a llama can jump. And we kind of did that, we bagged that. I'm used to doing displays in front of lots of people. And again, I immerse myself in what I'm doing. I very rarely know that people are there. People could say hi to me that I know in a crowd while I'm doing a display, and I won't even really, I would probably even talk to them, but I don't really know they're there, because I'm really focused on what I'm doing. And that kind of, I think, is how I got over my confidence issue many years ago on that. But yeah, so he kind of did that world record, and then that was brilliant. And we had like the stuff that followed that. We went with Blue Peter, we did loads of other things that we did. And then I got invited to do another world record, which was 10 jumps in a row, and he had to do it within a time limit. I got invited to do it for a TV program, and it was basically being filmed and it was going out, whether we kind of got it or didn't. Now, for me, a bit of pride, if he's not going to get it, that's going to be a nightmare for me. So we went down, and it was at the same location, funnily enough, as Dogfest. It was at Arley Hall. And we went down, and there was lots of people doing these records and different things being filmed. Some people were getting them, some people weren't. And I was like, oh, crikey, Casper, you've got to be on your form here, mister, So we set these jumps out, and the guy that was setting the thing from Guinness turned around and he said, right, what have we said? We've given you 18 seconds, I think it was, to run down these 10 jumps. Now, Ria, if you see me, I'm no bloody Olympian. I'm no Olympian.
Seconds? Jesus
seriously.
Christ.
And I'm like, I can't, I've got to run alongside. He's on a leading rein. I've got to run alongside him. I am not a sprinter, believe me. I'm nowhere near. So I'm like, crikey. But I knew that if we got it right, we could do that. Because kind of obviously I knew the criterion, was practicing that. And then it was like, we got there. But when we got there, that was the other funny thing beforehand. The day of the shoots, when we drove down, I lost my voice. Genuinely lost my voice. Like gone. It was that bad. So wow. I did my interview with this lad Ben, who was a great interviewer, who had to go, hi Sue, we're delighted to have you with us, and for everybody listening? Sue's lost her voice this morning, haven't you? Yes, I have. You know, I was so, it was a nightmare. So I did an interview exactly this. And then what made it worse was though, when I worked the llama, he's on verbal command as well, you know, so I didn't do that. So I had 3 attempts. First attempt, off we go. We've got cameras everywhere, cameras under jumps, are bloody everywhere. So you poor, you know, there's all these things to contend with. It's not like being at home. And off we go, jump the jumps, and he knocked one off. So that one gone. Second one, we start off and he goes, nah, not doing it. And if he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. There's nothing I can do to make him do it. So like third attempt, and I'm looking at, and I've got to be honest with you, Derek is my rock. Derek is just incredible. He's such a talented, quiet man who's such a big support behind the scenes. And he's at the bottom, on this jump to the bottom, and he looks across, I look across at him with this, help, this is, oh my God, I've got 1 attempt. This is going to go out no matter what while they're filming it. And he just kind of gave me the old, come on, you can do it sort of look. Well, I looked at Casper, come on, Casper, we can do this. We did it. We smashed it. We did it in something like 15 seconds. Don't know where it came from, but I don't know where my running came from. But Casper could have done it bolt, right? And so we bagged that, and I was delighted. I've got to be honest with you. So yeah, there's so many great things I've done with animals, and not just the dogs, but obviously the dogs is a big part of that as well. So yeah. God, you're making me reminisce. Like, yeah, I'm loving it. I can think of a million stories. In 2 weeks' time, we could still be sat here with me going on with stories for you.
And they would all be awesome. I have to say, obviously, I know we're recording this on Zoom, so I can see Sue, and Sue can see me on the video. I'm pretty sure my mouth has been open for probably 90% of this.
And if you can see my body language as we're talking, and the more I'm talking about enjoying this, the more animated I am, aren't I? Because I'm enjoying it.
I absolutely love it. You're really passionate about what you do, and that obviously comes through in so much. I've been loving watching you train little Merlin through Pawesome as well.
Oh,
He's such a sweet little dog, with amazing ears, and you know, it's clearly he adores working with you. You can see his little face, and it's just
Merlin's a puppy that wasn't meant to be for me. It was a very unfortunate situation with his mum. The background on him, as you know, Rhea, but just for your people, he was his mum had to have an emergency cesarean. Only little Merlin survived it, and she rejected him. So Derek and I took on the task to hand rear him. Now I've hand reared quite a lot of animals over the years, deer, raccoon of all things, quartermundi. So weird, wonderful animals. That's another time. We'll have to do another podcast.
We'll do another podcast about
so lots of weird and wonderful stuff. But I've never hand reared a puppy, which is really bizarre, really, when you think what I do. And so we hand reared Merlin. And yeah, we weren't planning on actually keeping one of these particular pups out of the litter for no reason particularly, except that I had actually booked a Malinois puppy actually at that point. That's what I was looking for, another Malinois. And little Merlin came along. Well, how can you not keep the dog that you've hand reared? I mean, he's amazing. But every 2 hours in the night. Derek was great as well. Derek doesn't normally, he does puppies, but he doesn't do them. He prefers dogs once they're doing things. But he was absolutely great. He'd do the evening so that I could go to bed and then get up, and I'd do in the night ones and that. But he's a cracking puppy. So yeah, really pleased with him.
He's fab. Can you tell us all the places we can find out about you and Pawesome in all the places?
Okay, so my main website is the caninecentre.co.uk for the dogs, and that's the behaviour, the training side of things there. Facebook, the Canine Centre for the dog side. For Pawesome, it's pawsomedogclub.com is the website, and the Facebook group is actually a private group that you link in through from the website there.
When you
you go in from there. Llamas with blackrockllamas.co.uk if you want to have a look at some of the llama stuff. And also if you go onto YouTube, Sue Williams, or if you Google Sue Williams dog trainer, Louis the pig, if you want to know about Louis the pig, or Casper the llama. There'll be a lot coming up if you put in Sue Williams dog trainer.
That's literally my task now. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sue.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And I am massively grateful for all the help you've given me so far with Indy, and just having that, that sounding board. So I definitely say, got a dog, got a puppy, look into Sue, look into Pawesome. You will not regret it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sue. It's been awesome.
Brilliant. Thank you.